This story begins on a rainy night on a desolate battlefield atop a mountain of corpses. There stood Qinfang, who, despite being under the effect of accelerated aging 100 times over, had still managed to clear the ruins of the ancient god. A woman holding a dagger praised Fang for being impressive and decided to take the divine artifact called the Eye of Judgment. Qinfang, injured and on the brink of death, asked his sister, Qinxiu, why she was betraying him so coldly. Qinxiu made it clear that Qinfang was nothing more than an adopted child whom her parents had taken in. She did not consider him her brother, since he did not share the same blood as her. A blonde man named Song Fei appeared and stated that Qinfang had turned out to be useful. Resting his hand on her shoulder and holding the divine artifact, he smiled and thanked Qinfang, saying that without him, Qinxiu, he would never have obtained the divine artifact. To completely drain Qinfang's lifespan in one go, he had worked hard to obtain the soul-stealing blade that was now embedded in his body. He asked if Qinfang liked his farewell gift. Qinfang had raised Qinxiu after their parents passed away, supporting her through school. Even after the game descended upon the world, he risked his life countless times for her. But now, seeing that she had betrayed him, he realized that he had judged her wrongly. Qinxiu made it clear that after their parents died, Qinfang kept meddling in her life, giving her orders and controlling her. Before, when Song Fei and she needed his protection, he was still somewhat useful. But now that they had the divine artifact, the only value he had for them was gone. Song Fei lunged toward Qinfang to end his life, promising that he would take good care of Qinxiu. As death approached, Qinfang promised not to let them get away with it. Just before he could finish the sentence, Song Fei took his life. In 2025, the godforsaken game descended upon the world. The only currency was lifespan. Dying caused a loss of lifespan, while killing monsters granted lifespan. Players could spend lifespan to bring their in-game abilities into the real world. The strong could crush tanks with their bare hands, cut airplanes apart with a sword, and even withstand nuclear explosions with their own bodies. From that moment on, the world changed drastically and chaos spread everywhere. Qinfang fought to survive with his sister, enduring countless hardships, barely managing to enter the top 100 global powerhouses. After overcoming endless dangers and narrowly escaping death countless times, he finally conquered the ruins of the ancient god and obtained the divine artifact called the Eye of Judgment. At last, he had the qualifications to reach the top. But who would have thought that the price of his success would be betrayal by his only family? All his efforts in life were nothing more than an interference. All his struggles only paved the way for another's success. If he could live again, he swore to fight only for himself. But then something unexpected happened. Qinfang suddenly opened his eyes. He was in his room. He quickly sat up and realized that this was the real world. He was confused since he clearly remembered having died, but once he turned on his phone, he saw that it was the year 2025. Looking out the window, he saw the familiar city, realizing that he had been reborn 9 years ago, on the very day the godforsaken game descended to Earth. The next day, his sister Qinxiu kicked open the door. Upon seeing that Qinfang was at home, calmly drinking coffee, she became furious and demanded to know why he wasn't answering her calls. She kicked over the trash can. Qinfang remembered that on the day the Forsaken game descended, he and Qinxiu had a big fight over Song Fei. The walls were covered in posters of Song Fei. Before the game descended, Song Fei was a moderately famous underground idol, and Qinxiu was his obsessed fan. Song Fei appeared glamorous on the surface, but in reality, he was a complete scoundrel who deceived his fans out of their money and exploited their bodies. To prevent Qinxiu from being deceived, Qinfang always forbade her from associating with him. But in the end, he was accused of controlling her life. Pointing at Qinfang, Qinxiu asked if he was deaf, saying it was his fault that Song Fei had lost first place that month. She threatened that if Qinfang did not give her money to help Song Fei climb the rankings, she would get angry. Just then, with a cold expression, Qinfang slapped her. She was sent to the ground. Her cheeks swelled, blood flowed from her nose, and her eyes filled with tears. She could not believe that Fang had struck her. With a sharp gaze, Qinfang made it clear that he had neither the desire nor the time to argue with her. He warned that if she kept barking, he would break her mouth. He threw the credit card toward her and said that it was the money their parents had left behind. No matter how difficult things had been over the years, he had never touched a single cent. For the sake of their parents, he won't lower himself to her level. But he made one thing clear. From that day on, he no longer had a sister. Qinxiu began to cry, unable to suppress her anger. In his past life, to protect Qinxiu, Qinfang gave up too many opportunities. Too many secret dungeon treasures that required dangerous exploration. This time, he took out sleeping pills and swallowed them with water. He was curious how far he could go without this burden. Using his past life knowledge of the game, he decided to get ahead of everyone. From now on, Kinshio was on her own, and as for Songfei, Qinfang decided to take his head personally. Qinfang fell asleep and entered the choice hall. He had missed this place since the first time he came here. Back then, he had been so nervous that it took him several hours to complete his career choice and leave. But this time, he had to be faster. In his past life, he chose the warrior class to protect Kinjio. The warrior class was not weak, but it was no longer the right choice. Now, without the burden of Kinjio, he would be able to clear solo much faster. Mobility and reaction were the most important factors, so without hesitation, Qinfang chose the assassin class. But then something unexpected happened. The system announced that the divine artifact, the Eye of Judgment, had been successfully linked. The Eye of Judgment was activated. It possessed a passive authority. Upon entering the Forsaken game, Qinfang would automatically receive the highest ranking profession and talent. Qinfang was in shock when he realized that the Eye of Judgment had connected to him after his rebirth. He understood how it worked. As long as the artifact recognized its owner, even if it was stolen, it would be completely useless. He believed that perhaps this was the true reason why he had been reborn. Just then, shadow began to flow into his body. His body started to transform and his hair turned white, merging with the shadow. Qinfang's appearance changed drastically. Shadow was the highest level hidden profession for assassins. It was completely different from the warrior profession he had chosen in his past life. Simply obtaining this profession had already given him tremendous power. Qinfang's eyes widened in surprise when he remembered that each profession had only a very small chance of unlocking its hidden higher tier profession. The authority of judgment made this probability a certainty. The system activated, informing him that the authority of judgment was the most genuine and ancient primordial authority in the universe. Its power surpassed rules and order. For now, Qinfang could not actively use this authority since he did not yet possess divinity. However, its passive effect was already active. This revelation left him in complete shock. In his past life, it was not until the 7th year, after the God-forsaken game descended, that a powerful player managed to leave God's abandoned realm and reach the realm of order. Only then did humanity learn about the existence of the power of order. Yet even years later, no one ever obtained it. Qinfang never expected to achieve this power at the very beginning of his journey. He had already obtained a primordial authority that surpassed order and rules. As long as he could leave God's abandoned realm and reach the realm of order to obtain divinity, he would be able to activate it fully. Now, with another goal in this life, and with the profession selection complete, the system asked him to enter his game Alias. Qinfang hesitated for a brief moment, then chose Shadow, since his profession had been born from darkness. Qinfang was teleported to God's abandoned realm. This was a ruined land filled with countless monsters. He had to be careful, as the monsters were ready to tear him apart and steal his lifespan. Outside the town, players could hunt monsters and earn a tradable lifespan. But if they died in the game, they would lose half of their lifespan, both tradable and non-tradable. Qinfang was in Shell Town, a safe zone. There were no monsters here, and players could not attack one another. The lifespan loss rate was multiplied by 1. Many people had been dragged into the game. Some had taken a nap after eating, while others had fallen asleep after a long workday, only to end up in this place. Everyone's attention was focused on Qinfang. No one knew what profession he had, nor why it looked so different from theirs. Seeing the dagger, some realized that he was an assassin. Soon, powerful figures from various countries would appear one after another, reshaping the order of this world. If Qinfang wanted to get ahead of them, he could not afford to wait, since progress waits for no one. Just then, 3 men and an archer were teleported back to town. If players died during a monster hunt, they would be returned to the town. The players were furious and panicked since the wild monsters were far too strong. With a single bite, the monster had drained all their lifespan. They had been fighting a low-level crawler, but even working together, they had only managed to reduce a third of its health. Now that they had died, their lifespan had dropped by half. They turned to the archer, Lizzie, and asked what they should do next. Qinfang began observing her. He remembered that archers started with short bows, realizing that she was also a hidden class. Lizzie noticed that Qinfang was a hidden class as well. With a gentle smile, she asked if he wanted to team up with them. The monsters outside were extremely dangerous and they could not handle them alone. Her team had already been wiped out once, so they had experience. Quinfang refused and continued on his way. Lizzie's companions mocked him, thinking he was acting like a professional. The five of them together had failed to defeat the monster, so there was no way he could do it alone. According to them, Quinfang was looking for death. Using the system, Lizzie saw that Quinfang's alias was Shadow. As Quinfang walked toward the exit of the town, Lizzie decided to follow him, hoping to discover what skills he had. She could not help but smile, thinking that perhaps they could learn new information about monsters and see how Quinfang would die.